Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people truly believe they can do what they want, when they want, because they're special. And in today's episode, we've got Karens trying to steal houses, psycho in-laws, Karens trying to get people arrested for walking their dogs. It's wild. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard. And as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So here's some backstory. My parents used to own a house on a big piece of land. When my older siblings went away for college, the house felt too big for our needs, so my parents decided to sell the house, but not all the land. They built a smaller house on the part of the land they didn't sell. A few years after, we moved to a city 2 hours away, and we kept the house as a place to go during the summer. My parents decided to rent the house as it was well located and had a really nice view. Now, renting it meant that they could use the money towards the mortgage and the taxes. And here enters Karen. Well, Karen and her boyfriend rented the place so she could be closer to her work. From the start, my dad made it clear. The place was for rent, and my parents planned on living in that house after retiring. At the time, both of them planned to work for at least another 20 years. They would, of course, notify Karen well in advance when they wanted to take back the house, so she would have plenty of time to find a new place. In return, they asked that she notify them in advance should she wish to move out, so they could find a new renter. The lease also stated that my parents would have some of their things in a locked storage in the basement, as well as a shed on the property, and they would always call Karen before dropping by to get something out of storage. For a few years, Karen was an okay renter. She paid the rent through a check each month. She also smoked inside, and she didn't take care of the land, but my dad didn't make a fuss about it. Real trouble starts after around 12 years. Every few months, Karen's checks would bounce back. My dad would call to ask her about it, and Karen would profusely apologize and rectify the situation. And then it became every other month, until it was every single month. Finally, my dad had enough, and he called her about the lease and the rent. During the call, Karen argued that since she had been paying rent the past 12 years, the house was now hers, and she didn't have to pay my dad any more money. Now, my dad was shocked, since that came out of nowhere. He then tried to explain to her that she was renting the place like they agreed on since the beginning. Karen went on a total bitch fit, how she had paid so much money over the years, and she was the one living there and taking care of the place. Therefore, it should be hers. She then threatened to take my dad to court to sue him for the house. Now, where I live, there's many laws which protects the renter, and it can be a real bitch to deal with when you have a nasty renter. So with that, my dad hires a lawyer to make sure everything was in order. After a meeting with Karen, where the lawyer was present, she realized that she didn't have much of a case, since all the paperwork concerning the house was in my dad's name, and the original lease clearly states that she was renting it. My dad offered her to stop renting should she wish to after the whole debacle, but she wanted to stay in the house. He then made her sign a new lease where it states again that this was a rental, and that should she not pay or cause trouble again, my dad would give her the shortest possible notice of eviction allowed by law. Karen is still renting the house after almost 20 years. My parents are not even close to retiring yet. I do hope it won't turn into a crap show when they decide to take back the house. Yeah, honestly, I don't know how I'd feel after she pulled the "I'll take you to court" stuff for your house. I would have never let her stay after that. I feel like OP's dad is going to be in a world of trouble when he wants her to move out. If she feels that it's her place after 12 years, what's it gonna be like after 20 plus years? I'm just saying, where I live, renters have a lot of rights, and I have a feeling that she might fight it and she'll carry it out as long as she can until she gets removed physically, and then maybe even destroy the inside of the house, who knows. But yeah, she's already showed what type of person she is by pulling that crap in the first place, and I really hope it doesn't turn into a nightmare tenant situation for OP's dad. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this post. So this happened during one of my dog walks not too long ago. I was just taking my dog for his nightly walk, and I'll usually bring some poop bags, a flashlight, and myself. No phone, no ID. I just unplug and enjoy my time being outdoors with my dog. Now, the route our wandering takes us on typically involves heading towards a spot with a trash can, so I can skip carrying the poop home part. Said location is a school. Now, our route takes us up past the school and then back down the other side, so he doesn't notice us actually turning around. As we come back down the other side, he had pooped, and I had bagged the turd for disposal in the garbage can outside the school. I crossed the road, threw the poop bag in the trash, and then the sun came back out. Only, it wasn't the sun. It was a pickup truck with a light bar brighter than the sun, blaring into my eyes at night, and it felt really good. I put a mittened hand up to block the light and see where I was going, and then proceeded to walk away from the truck back towards home. But the truck follows us, which is fantastic. The truck continues to follow us for a quarter of a mile when a police car rolls up with lights on, but no siren. The cop shines his spotlight on me, which turned my headache all the way up to 11 and instructs me to put my hands up, and I do so. The cop then gets out of his car and informs me that I'm loitering near a school. I deny this. I tell him I'm walking my dog. The same time and route I do every single night. This is when the cop asked me for ID, and I tell him it's at home, where I'd like to be going now if it's all the same to him. And this is when the clown in the pickup truck uses a ladder to descend from his lifted monstrosity of a truck. And the guy starts rambling how he saw me put a drug baggie in the trash. Bear in mind, the light bar is still on, and it's effectively blinding the cop. The cop finally tells the guy to turn his light bar off or he's getting cited. The man wobbles all the way back up his truck ladder and he turns the sun off. Finally. The man in the truck then goes on to exclaim that I'm a druggie and for the cop to arrest me right now. The cop tells the guy that there's no proof I'm a druggie and he's not going to arrest me. The guy then tells the cop that I must be a pedo then, lurking behind the school so late at night. Now, first of all, it's a Saturday and it's after dinner time. I don't care how much a student has misbehaved. There is no such thing as all weekend detention. The parking lots are also entirely empty. There's nobody here. Almost like it's a nice, well-lit place to walk a dog. The man then goes on to try to say, "What about the bag? He's selling drugs, officer. Go check the garbage can." To which I say, "Nope, I'm just throwing out my dog's poop. Thanks." The cop at this point looks at me and then at the man, and then does some math and realizes I'm probably not the problem here. He then begins taking an interest in the other guy, whose pupils are wide open despite a frickin' spotlight being shined at them. I'm then told I'm free to go, while the man throws a huge tantrum about me not being arrested. I didn't stick around long enough to see what happened. I didn't care, but I hope the guy got arrested. Oh boy, nothing like getting the cops called on you when out walking your dog, right? Like, what was that guy's problem? Oh, he has drugs, officer. No, he doesn't have drugs. He's a pedo at a school. Arrest him. Like, some people have way too much time on their hands, and I'm with OP when I say I do hope that guy got arrested, because wouldn't that be satisfying if he got locked up after calling the cops on OP? Okay, so I'm a 24-year-old male, and my wife, also 24, recently had our daughter in July. She's the best thing to ever happen to my wife and I, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have our little bundle of joy. She recently got sick while staying with her grandparents, my in-laws, while my wife and I took a trip for work. Now, for some context, my in-laws are really big into LifeWave/X39. It's some type of patch that supposedly helps regrow stem cells by reflecting light rays back into your body, allowing your body to produce more stem cells to fight off diseases and sickness. If you ask me, it sounds like a snake oil, and my wife agrees, calling it a pyramid scheme. The only way to get said patches is by spending well over $1,000, and then your task is selling the patches yourself. It's essentially some multi-level marketing product, where the more patches you sell, the more money you make. Now, I've tried doing research on X39, and the only comments I've seen praise said product are brand new accounts never used before or after, or their entire profile is dedicated to shilling out for LifeWave/this X39 product. In my own research, they appear to be just overpriced stickers. They contain no medication, no special UV rays, or anything of the sort. They're literally an overpriced sticker with this air bubble. But my wife and I have made it very clear that we want no part in this, nor did we want our daughter to have it. Even if it's fake, we want no part in it, and on the off chance it did something, I don't want our daughter to be used as their lab rat or guinea pig or something. Now, before we left our daughters with my in-laws, we provided them with some infant medication, just in case she got sick, because you can never be too safe, you know. Well, we returned from the work trip early because our daughter wasn't getting any better, so we picked her up and went home. We were going to give her a bath, and in the process of taking her jacket off, we found an X39 patch on her arm. Upon finding it, we immediately called wife's parents and demanded to know why she had a patch on her. Her parents tried saying, "It's safe for baby. We ordered the ones for ages 7 and younger. It's practically medication." And yes, they said those exact words, which still didn't answer our question. So my wife checked the go bag, and the Motrin we gave them, while it was not used very much at all. Her parents then tried claiming that somebody else in their group or whatever covered their son with the same patches, and they got better in a week. The point is, we didn't buy it, nor did we care. We've made it abundantly clear that we wanted nothing to do with these patches, and we didn't want our daughter to be a part of it. They failed to listen. My wife was on the phone with them for over an hour. And while I don't know the exact length the conversation went to, I know it ended with her screaming, "You are never going to see my effing daughter again. And if you attempt to come to my house, we will call the police." That was 3 days ago now, and we've had several missed calls from family members, her parents, her siblings, even family friends, saying that we overreacted and they were trying to help. Maybe we did overreact, but we wanted nothing to do with that. And despite making it clear, they went against our wishes and they did it anyways. And instead of giving my daughter actual medication, they tried to give her some placebo patch. Her parents tried claiming that we're stopping them from seeing their only grandchild over something so small. Yeah, in my opinion, I think Opie and his wife reacted fairly to what happened, and the parents overstepped boundaries for sure. And even if the patches were a load of mumbo-jumbo or they in fact worked, the point is Opie and his wife specified that they did not want their infant child anywhere near those things, and the in-laws went against that. Like, I would be fuming if I told my parents not to do something and they went against my wishes. Like, who wouldn't, right? Especially when it comes to a baby, which at the end of the day, the parents would have to deal with the consequences. But with that said, guys, there's a lot of updates, and you know how over-the-top entitled parents can be when told no, right? So buckle up. Update number 1, 1 month later. So about a month ago, I made a post ranting about my in-laws' weird obsession with stem cell regeneration patches, which clearly is not a real thing. So after my wife essentially cut ties with them, we received a million phone calls and text messages from family, friends, etc. Things quieted down for about a week or so. We started having my sister watch our daughter instead when we had to go to work. We haven't had another out-of-trip town since this post, however. Through those couple of weeks, we never really heard anything beyond a couple of supposed crap-talking posts on Facebook bitching about us. But I can't seem to find the post. We thought things were going to end there, but boy were we wrong. And this is quite the jump from the last post. My wife and I were visited by CPS about 2 weeks ago, after they received concerning calls about supposed child abuse and negligence within the household. Of course, nothing like that happened, and the caseworker was very quick to see that. We had asked who reported her, and while she couldn't say, we had a suspicion that it was from her parents. We were completely helpful and cooperative with the caseworker, and after she left that night, my wife called up her mom and asked if she was the one who called CPS. Surprisingly, her mother took full accountability, but then tried to spin it around in her favor, claiming she did it for our own good, because our daughter was sick and she wasn't getting any better. My wife did not know how to react to that, so she basically told her mom to go F herself, and she wants nothing to do with her again. I know I saw a few comments on the last post saying that maybe we shouldn't have cut them out entirely, but now I'm starting to question why we didn't cut them out years ago, before our daughter was even a thought in our heads. About a week after the first audit, my mother-in-law showed up to our house on my day off while my wife was at work, and she essentially pounded on the door demanding to see our daughter. even forcing her way into our home by pushing past my arm. When I told her to get the hell out of my house, and she had no business marching in here like that, she essentially told me that I'm an unfit parent because I'm depriving my daughter of the help she desperately needed, because she's clearly a very sick child. And I want to note, my daughter is perfectly healthy right now. In fact, she's had no stuffy nose, no high temperature, nothing for about a week now. I told my mother-in-law straight up that she was insane. I went off on her, how she lied to us, went against our wishes, had the audacity to call and lie to CPS, and then show up at our house unannounced and uninvited and marched herself inside, as well as everything about her X39/LifeWave BS. We argued for a while before I finally got so fed up that I told her to leave my house before I called the police. She storms out of the house, and in true fashion, she said, "This isn't over. I will see my grandkid." I immediately called my wife, who was of course irate. The following morning, we filed a restraining order at the courthouse from her mom and dad because clearly they're not in their right mindset. The caseworker had to audit us a few more times as per their guidelines. And yesterday was her last day, where she informed us that we're doing good and she's sorry for the trouble they caused. We kept her up to speed on the LifeWave crap and the showing up unannounced and the restraining order. And though she couldn't really take a side, she seemed apologetic. But my wife and I are pretty livid about the situation. We started looking at houses in another state to get as far away from her in-laws as possible. Our company has offices out there, so it's entirely possible that we could just be transferred, so we're crossing our fingers that all goes well. I hope we'll get a place clear across the country, so this will hopefully be my last update. The final update, 5 months later. So things aren't going to be as juicy as the last post, but some new things have happened, so I'll jump right in. After my in-laws called CPS on us for no discernible reasons, other than we forbid them from seeing our daughter, things mostly quieted down. Some of you suggested that we should do more than get a restraining order, so we bought some security cameras and we had them installed all around our property. We also let our neighbors know what was going on for the most part, and anytime we had to go somewhere, not only did we have cameras recording, our neighbors kept us updated too. With that said, mother-in-law stopped coming around for the first few months after calling CPS on us. But just the month before last, as we're preparing to move, my in-laws somehow got word we're planning on moving states, and attempted to block our driveway, as Dad tried blocking the front door. I'm not sure what their plan was there because we have a back door, and an extra side door leading from the kitchen, but I digress. Her mom blocked the driveway, stopping our U-Haul or car from leaving the property, and she wouldn't budge, even after we told them we'd call police. They told us they'd move if we told them where we were moving to, but my wife told them that that wasn't happening and they had 10 minutes to leave or we'd be calling the police. My neighbor came over during the commotion, but my in-laws still wouldn't budge. My daughter's crying during all of this, and my wife is trying to console her. My neighbor and I are attempting to remove my father-in-law from the doorway, but he wouldn't move. Eventually, my wife called the police, and I'm guessing another neighbor called them as well because they responded within mere minutes. My in-laws kept screaming to the police that we were taking their rightful grandchild away, and that we'd all be damned to burn in hell for this. Honestly, it was quite the show. The police kept asking them to leave, but they wouldn't. Eventually, they were arrested for refusing to leave, and the police were nice enough to call a tow truck for us to be able to back out of the driveway. Lo and behold, as the police were handcuffing my in-laws, I noticed that they both had on those stupid patches, and even the police questioned them about it. But whatever, what's done is done. We were able to finally leave onto new adventures. We've been settled in at our new house for the better part of a month, and we're enjoying it greatly. No word from in-laws, and they have no idea where we are. We have them blocked, but I'm sure we'll eventually get messages from unknown numbers or Facebook accounts asking where we moved. But there's no way they're that foolish to believe we'll actually tell them. What a roller coaster of a ride that was, guys, and I'm glad to know that OP and his family are now far, far away from those two. Like, they went absolutely off the rails after Opie and his wife said no contact with their grandchild. But yeah, hopefully it is smooth sailing from now on, and mother-in-law doesn't decide to get a private investigator to track them down or something. Like, wouldn't that be something if they just showed up a few months down the road, rang Opie's doorbell, and said, "Hi, remember us? Now give us our grandchild. We deserve her." So right after university, I got a job at a big department store. About a year and a half into my employment, rumors start circulating that the store was claiming bankruptcy in my country and was about to be shut down. My specific store ends up being one of the first to have a set close date, so immediately liquidation signs went up. By the next day, everything was marked down and we had big no return signs plastered all over. It was all over the news too. Our cash registers had the return function locked out, and big signs hung from the ceilings that told customers all sales were final. Of course, many entitled Karens came through, arguing about the prices or trying to return stuff. When we explained that our cash registers wouldn't even let managers process returns, most just accepted it and they left in a huff. All except one customer. This one customer was trying to return a toaster that she got at liquidated prices for $10 earlier that day. I explained to her over and over that there was no way I could return it, and then pointed at the signs and pointed at the no return policy on her receipt. Now, by this point, we've all had enough of crappy customers, and even our managers had given us permission to get snippy. We had 7 days left until we were out of a job, so what did we care? Needless to say, I was actually ecstatic when this Karen threatens me. The woman starts screaming at me saying, "You are the worst employee I've ever met. I'm gonna go to the media about this poor customer service. I will protest outside and make sure everyone knows what kind of business this is. You are all scumbags. You are all thieves." Hearing that, I just smiled and I replied, 7,000 people just lost their jobs and this store won't even be here next week. What the F is your protest going to accomplish? You're being a bit of a bitch. Of course, hearing me say that, in all Karen fashion, she asked for my manager, and I happily got her. So right in front of me, this lady lied, and she told my manager that I called her a customer an effing bitch. That's when my manager looked at me, and then looked at her, and then said, "Well, have you tried not being one?" Of course, Karen lost her crap. She threw the toaster on the ground and she kicked it like she was going for a field goal. She also smacked over the earrings display that was right beside the cash and then demanded corporate's phone number. We gave it to her, but at that point, the number was no longer in service. I didn't bother telling her that. She then left the store, but not before telling all of us that we're absolutely useless, and that's why we're all out of a job. You know what, it's always nice to see a Karen not getting her way, and the way the manager responded was absolutely perfect. Have you tried not being a bee? But yeah, some freaking people, right? I just wish she got the cops called on her for destroying property because people like her need to be taught a lesson. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode where bosses are getting absolutely destroyed. Guys, go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.